First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq greets the chairman of the Transitional Sovereign Council of the Republic of Sudan on his country's Independence Day and greets the President of the state and the Councils of Ministers of the Republic of Cuba on his country's National Day. The United Nations adopts a decision to ask the International Court of Justice to give an opinion on Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories. And North Korea fires 3 ballistic missiles towards the sea east of the Korean Peninsula. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Chairman of the Transitional Sovereign Council of the Republic of Sudan, on the occasion of his country's Independence Day. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency President Miguel Diaz-Canel, President of the State and Council of Ministers of the Republic of Cuba, on his country's National Day. The 193 member of the United Nations General Assembly asked the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to give an opinion on the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories, including measures aimed at altering the demographic composition, character and status of the Holy City of Jerusalem, and from its adoption of the related discriminatory legislation and measures. The request for a court opinion on Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories was made in a resolution adopted by the UN General Assembly with 87 votes in favor. 26 countries voted against, among them Israel and the United States, Germany, Canada, Italy, Australia, and the United Kingdom, while 53 countries abstained. Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said that the tripartite meeting between Turkey, Russia, and Syria will contribute to stability and peace in the region and especially in Syria. Turkey's defense minister and intelligence chief met their Syrian counterparts in Moscow on Wednesday in a clear sign of normalization between Ankara and Damascus in the decade-long Syrian war. Following the meeting, Akar emphasized Turkey's respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty rights of Syria and Iraq. North Korea fired 3 ballistic missiles towards the sea east of the Korean Peninsula today. The launches were the latest in an unprecedented number of missile tests conducted by North Korea this year, as Pyongyang presses with weapons development amid speculation it could test a nuclear weapon for a 7th time. The launches came a day after South Korea's defense ministry announced it had successfully conducted a test flight of a solid propellant space launch vehicle. On Monday, 5 North Korean drones crossed into South Korea, prompting the South military to scramble fighter jets and attack helicopters to try to shoot them down in the first intrusion since 2017. Passengers arriving at Spanish airports from China will be screened for COVID starting today, following an explosion of cases in China. The Spain's health ministry said in a statement that the measures will remain in place until at least February 15th, with travelers arriving from China required to undergo a temperature check and a COVID-19 test. Meanwhile, residents and business owners in the central Chinese city of Wuhan today said they were cautiously hopeful for the new year as China reopens to the world after scrapping 3 years of zero COVID curbs. On the other hand, the Chinese President Xi Jinping called for more efforts and unity as the country enters a new phase in its approach to combating the pandemic in his first public comments on COVID-19 since his government changed course 3 weeks ago and relaxed its rigorous policy of lockdowns and mass testing. The death toll from flooding and landslides caused by Christmas Day rains in the southern Philippines rose to 44, with 28 others still missing. Damage to infrastructure and crops has been estimated at $24.4 million. Heavy rain submerged villages, towns, and highways in Visayas and Mindanao regions on Christmas Day, forcing more than 50,000 people to flee their homes. Former Pope Benedict XVI has died at the age of 95. The Vatican announced today, almost a decade after he became the first pontiff to resign in 6 centuries. Benedict had shocked the world in 2013 when he became the first pope since the Middle Ages to step down, citing his declining mental and physical health. The Vatican said Benedict's body will be displayed from Monday morning in St. Peter's Basilica to allow the faithful to pay their respects ahead of a solemn but simple funeral later in the week. The German Pope Emeritus, whose birth name was Joseph Ratzinger, had been living a quiet life in a former convent inside the Vatican grounds since his resignation. His health had been declining for a very long time, and he had almost entirely withdrawn from the public view when the Vatican revealed on Wednesday that his situation had worsened. That same day, Francis called for Catholics worldwide to pray for him, and he received last rites, a Catholic tradition for the dying. Benedict was Pope for 8 years between 2005 and 2013. Still to come on News Bulletin. Sydney prepares to have its first restriction-free New Year's Eve with spectacular fireworks display. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The overall power production in the Sultanate of Oman until October 2022 increased by 1.4% to reach 35,460.1 gigawatt per hour compared to the same period last year, according to the data released from the National Center for Statistics and Information. Value trading in Muscat Stock Exchange in December increased to 84.5 million Omani Riyals, showing best performances since April this year. Muscat Stock Exchange witnessed a lot of purchase transactions from foreign and GCC investors, while recording lower sales of shares. Foreign and GCC share purchases in this month stood at 16.8 million Omani Riyals, while the value of share sales recorded 8.3 million Omani Riyals, witnessing a growth by 6.4% in the value of trading compared to the value of tradings in November. Oil prices are heading towards some gains for second consecutive years after 1 year of the fluctuation in prices due to the lack of supply due to Ukraine war and lack of demand from China, the largest importer of crude oil around the world. Crude oil prices in March increased in general, with Brent crude oil at $139.30 per barrel, the highest recorded increase since 2018. However, prices fell at accelerated pace during the second half of this year due to fears of global recession. Australia is gearing up to celebrate its first restriction-free New Year's Eve after 2 years of COVID disruptions, with more than 1 million revelers expected to flock to Sydney's harbour front to the fireworks display. Sydney is one of the world's first major cities to welcome the new year and draw a huge TV audience around the world, with a public countdown and fireworks display over its iconic Opera House. Spectacular fireworks will be launched at Sydney Harbour and Sydney Opera House. For the first time in 12 years, fireworks will be launched from 4 building rooftops to frame the spectacular show. Municipality executed a clean-up operation throughout the Governorate of Muscat after heavy rainfall that lashed a number of areas of the Sultanate of Oman. Here's a report.
A cleanup operation executed by Muscat municipality in the Governorate of Muscat after heavy rainfall that lashed the Governorate of Muscat and other areas of the Sultanate during the beginning of this last week of December. Muscat municipality exerted great efforts to deal with the effects of the weather by cleaning the dusty roads and disposing waste and opening the paths for the accumulated water to flow. During the rainfall, long lines of traffic were witnessed on several roads as police worked hard to regulate vehicles. The traffic jam was in the early morning hours at a time that many people were heading to work in the Governorate of Muscat. Thus, the intense rainfall left several areas waterlogged, huge traffic jams, and flooded parking lots, disturbing the normal life of residents. In other places, traffic was snarled up in both directions, thanks to the Royal Oman police personnel who were seen all over, assisting and directing traffic to the safe areas. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat.
This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq greets the chairman of the Transitional Sovereign Council of the Republic of Sudan on his country's Independence Day and greets the President of the State and the Councils of Ministers of the Republic of Cuba on his country's National Day. The United Nations adopts a decision to ask the International Court of Justice to give an opinion on Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories. And North Korea fires 3 ballistic missiles towards the sea east of the Korean Peninsula. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, good night and a very happy new year.